So people have submitted their like VODs for review in the coaching channel in my Discord. Link to the description below. So he said, I picked up this this coming tier from HPally, made a large ranking jump. I'm getting a tad reality checked. Was wondering if anyone could help. It's out on Narroot, Laredar, and died to something I could probably fix in Nimue. There's also a few prog pulls on Smolderon. I don't know if he has an overall atonement tracker. Not that I see on his screen. Yeah, at the start, he was kind of doing like a weave between... Both over Radiance. Vange gets ducked. Very unfortunate. Should be pounding smites right here. Yeah, and his buddy kind of fell off there. So he gets out, and so he has like 3 seconds right here. Shadow Covenant uptime. And then he's hitting the Radiance here. Okay. Yeah, so what he did was like, at the very start of the fight, he hit like a Radiance. Kind of like, I guess, by time. Or just like get some value out of it. And it was kind of like weaving between the smites and between flash heals. And kind of like smite and then flash heal and then smite and then flash heal. Which is like a very common mistake. There, he hit his ramp and still had Spatial Paradox on. And then wasn't really getting a lot of smites in. So now he cast another Radiance. Which was kind of just unnecessary. Because it's kind of tough to be able to see for his timers. Because his timers were like off to the side here. But now, I guess they go away? Because they have the alts going on? Yeah, okay, they go away because the alts are going on. And then they're supposed to come back. But you can see his like tooltip is covering up all of his stuff. So he takes the time here. The duckening happens. And so he's got 7 atonements, then hits his squid. And then he has 5 atonements, and then 4 atonements. And he's smiting, and then he radiances during the squid. So this is like a very like disjointed ramp that he does. This is a very common mistake that I see a lot of people do. Is they will like weave between healing and damage all the time. Instead of, here I'm doing all my healing, all my atonement application. Huzzah, it's great. And then I'm going to be doing my damage. It's nice to have an atonement tracker. It's not like super mandatory. Like I have a very like subtle one that's right above my powered shield icon. So right now he's applying individual atonements. I kind of wish his action tracker was a little bit better. That's okay. But he started like applying individual atonements after this radiance is falling off. What if I could show this in Warcraft logs? Possible or not? Okay. Either way, you kind of see it if you look at his overlay. Right above his health bar though. His limes were like, he'll be like 5 or 6, and then he'll drop down and he'll apply some more, you know? He's trying to like always maintain atonements. So right here, he's about to get his squid back. And I think if I understand it right, he has 1 charge of radiance available. So he's hitting some flash heals as people are getting kind of annihilated. And then he's probably gonna, okay, so now he has both his radiance charges back. And this should ideally be the area. So he applied like 8 atonements. He started like applying tons and tons of atonements. He has 7, then 8. And now he's smiting to try to get value from them. And then he hits his Mind Blast outside of Mind Bender and then flash heals again. And then he gets in a position here. And so he does have double radiance and Mind Bender right here. But this is the area that people start making mistakes though. Is they're like, oh my god, there's damage, I need to heal. Rather than, hey, the charge is coming up, let me make sure I have healing for that. Because I mean, without any other damage mechanic on this fight, nobody's gonna bleed out to just the dot. They're gonna bleed out to the charge and the dot together. They're gonna bleed out to, you know, not getting knocked back into flowers or stepping into flowers when they shouldn't, things like that. You know, it's always a combination of mechanics that kills you. So it's like unfortunate that he got ducked here, but it's also something that would not have mattered too much because most of his ramp would have gotten off if he had used those radiance charges. This is like a crazy amount of movement too. So he's applying all his atonements, gets his double radiance off, hits evangelism, and then hits his bender, then plants, then moves, then plants, then moves. Like he could have just done a 180 and started blasting damage into pips here, but he's kind of like chasing Urktos down to do damage and then losing a lot of smites in the process. You want to just be like as still as a statue whenever you're prepping these ramps. Like now he's getting some of the ramp value, getting some of the cooldown reduction, Shadow Covenant's fading. He's getting close to having his double radiance back, and so like he could already be having it here. And this happens, and it's okay if it's late, but this is where you just send it anyway. Okay, so that's what he's doing. He's sending it anyway. That's great. And then you just want to sit still and just pound smites out. It's like I would be watching to see if he is casting flash heals on other people where he is. Because the thing is, if he sat there and then started pounding out a lot of smites, especially if you have excess mana, that's your opportunity, especially since he's getting an innervate, which you can see in the bottom left, right around his health bar. If he's getting all this excess mana, he can then channel it into just greater amounts of output by just like applying a whole bunch of single atones, like 4 to 6 or something, then double radiance into the next charge, and like that's how you really like ramp up your HPS and use mana dumps. Here, once again, he's got his double radiance he's kind of holding on to too long. Kind of see... It's lingering for quite a while. He probably missed a decent amount of radiances over the course of the fight. Because you can pretty much robotically be like mashing double radiance throughout this encounter, but like really, really big gaps in between the casts of it. Should be like almost every 30 seconds. The Mindbender should be mostly on point, where it's like, oh, it's almost 30 seconds. Okay, cool. If it gets delayed, that happens. But then there's like a huge gap here, you know? So one of the things that happens pretty naturally in this fight is like, you kind of fall off the track a little bit. And you might like miss a charge, or you might get ducked or something like that and make mistakes. This is an interesting area where like, if you make that mistake and you kind of fall off with it, it's okay, especially when you play Mindbender. It's like a 30-second track, so you're able to get back quickly. Then, this is where you gotta make sure you like get back on the track, though. He's applying like a lot of like single target atonements, and then yeah, he hits Mindbender here. So he hits Mindbender here with like 3 atonements out, and then you don't really do much. So let me show you what happened. This one's actually pretty decently important. So he doesn't let the fact that he missed this charge stop him from hitting his ramp at this point, which is not a bad thing. There's still plenty of stacks. There's a lot of more dot damage. All that. You can still get good value. Okay. Now his atonements are falling off. And then he's reapplying more atonements while they're falling off. Gets his Mindbender back here. And then you're going to see him hit Mindbender again. And so right now, he hits Mindbender and has 4 atonements out. So he's missing a lot of output. So there's moments where you want to be using Mindbender very frequently. You want to use it almost on cooldown, but you can't be using it if you don't have any atonements out. You know, when he activated it here, he didn't even have a Radiance charge. He gets it available, and it's still like working on it. So then his pet's on cooldown, and then he's burning like single Radiances. So, except for like super niche environments, like maybe Mythic Parak, you don't want to be using single Radiances. You always want to be using them together. It's like a 9.5 second duration, and your Mindbender is much longer than that because you're extending its duration all the time, right? I always PI when it's called for. I don't have control over my own one. So this is like the second of the Mindbenders that he uses right here. He's like, oh, I have it back, let me use it. But he only has 3 atonements. He's not getting much value from the atonement he's producing. Like that's, again, part of the issue. He also doesn't have the flash on his Shadowbird Death. I don't know if he hit it at all, actually. Let me see. Surely he did. Only 6 casts. He could have gotten more out, for sure. Having that like flash onto your Shadowbird Death just to know that it's in range, yeah, is very important. And even using it during his squid up time, especially when you're getting like knocked back or you're not able to smite or something like that. Yeah. It's like here you hit it when he didn't have Bender up, but he does have atonements out. And now his atonements are falling down. So what happened here is he's applying all these atonements, but he doesn't have his squid up. And in this instance, you just have to hold on to your atonements, not be applying them yet, hit enough smites that you can then get your Bender back in time. Yeah. So now he has 13 atonements, 8 atonements, 7 atonements, hits Bender, 6 atonements, and it's all kind of going down. Right? And this could have been, had he held on to his radiances. Had he held off on applying atonements, then he would have actually been fine and captured all of this damage and been able to heal through all of it. Right? So right here, once again, he was just trying to apply all the atonements, and then as he got his Mindbender up, right here, he gets his Mindbender up, 15 atonements, hits Bender, and his atonements are falling. So sometimes, even if you're like, oh my god, there's damage now, it's like, well, yeah, there's also going to be a lot of damage later, like right here. And Council's a really good fight to look at, too, because even if you get off track, right, when you play Bender, it's okay, because there's going to be other opportunities to make up for it. And that's why I think Bender's also kind of the best spec for people to get into when they're, like, just starting with Disc, because it's not, you're not all in. It's like, I messed this up. Okay, I can actually come back. Oh, somebody ducked me. Okay, I can actually come back from this, you know? Outside of atonements and Mindbender, am I using Flash Heal and Smite? Usually I'm just smiting. Might Flash Heal with Surge procs a little here and there, but I'm usually just smiting and prepping for the next ramp. Let me find my first kill at a council. Here, I'll show you. So we started the fight, building up my ramp. I cast one, oh that's right, you cast one single Radiance at the start, and then you want to make sure you have your Juicer ramp later on. Alright, so I hit my Flash Heal, hit my Rapture, start applying shields to everybody. We hit our double Radiance, and then we're going to be off to the races. Get in position, I have my Mind Blast going, I'm penancing as I'm getting knocked up into the air. Huzzah, yay, huge healing, right? But then I'm just standing there and just pounding smites and only moving if the boss is knocking me back or I'm hitting an ability on the move, right? So you kind of slide cast. So when I get knocked up here, how really good players get more uptime is right in here, I'm hitting my Mind Blast, and then I get charged, and then I'm penancing, and then I'm smiting. Smiting. I get knocked back, and then I'm moving against the knockback with the penance. Get back into position, I hit a Shadow or Death, and I'm penancing and getting back into position, right? Okay, so the damage has stopped. Manway was about to die. I drop a shield into him. I have an extra Flash Heal. I hit that. Cool. But I'm also about to get my next ramp. And I know this because my Radiances are almost back, and because I cast so many smites that my Squid is back. I also know that on this fight in general, damage timing for the charges is about every 30 seconds or so. And I know this because I went and did my research in advance at lorix.io and pulled up the logs and see, Mindbender gets used in close conjunction to this mechanic. This mechanic's about every 30 seconds or so. Now I know. So what am I going to watch for? Well, I'm going to watch to make sure I have my atonements in place first so that I can actually produce value from it. So I say, I almost have my atonements back. Well, I'm going to be casting Flash Heals and then hitting my Radiance. And then I had to delay because I didn't have my second Radiance back because I had lots of haste. So I just cast a Smite in between. Not the end of the world. Maybe ideally I would have applied another Atonement. Hit another Radiance. Hit my Bender, and look at that. Next charge comes up, and I have resources on hand. I use my Penance to slide cast and move out of the way of Urtos' charge. I got my Halo hitting, I got my Smites going, and I'm pounding damage. Right? Okay, so now I've hit plenty of Smites. And I have 8 seconds left remaining. So now there's another charge going out. Well, I'm not going to be able to perfectly capture this one that goes out, and that's okay. I already have my barrier down. But after the charges happened, I'm already ready to go, and I've got my atonements applied. I have 18 atonements. I hit a very fat penance, and we're off to the races. So once I have like squeezed as much value, and you'll see it right here, I go from 18 atonements down to 15. I'm looking at Pip, and I'm just mashing the smites as my atonements go down, right? All right. We get ducked. It's right above the powered shield icon. We gotta basically just let a time out, and that's okay. Well, I see that I have 10 seconds left on my Mindbender, and I have both my Radiances because, again, I got ducked. How do we recover from this? There's gonna be a charge coming up, I guarantee it. Hit that Radiance. Like, I don't even actually have a timer at this point. But I'm on a progress encounter where it features very steady damage and ultimates, and I'm like, there's probably gonna be something to heal. And true to form, we're all getting in. We're dealing with this burst of damage. And then there's a thicket, and then there's the charge. And so I get in position. I'm a little late, like I said, on applying the atonements. But as you can see, I find my target. It's Pip. I only get a 16-person evangelism out. And I'm just pounding smites into it as we have 14 stacks of the dot damage that's going out onto the group. And so even though I don't have a perfectly timed ramp right here, I'm still capturing a bit of damage there, and I'm still capturing the dot damage there. A lot of people have so much haste, because whenever you are having high haste, you're able to get off more smites, especially when you're consistently casting those smites, and you're able to net a larger amount of cooldown reduction for your squid. It's really important on the last 3 boss fights in particular, because there's more movement involved, and so every second that you're able to chain lots of smites together during your Bender uptime is that much less in smites as you're waiting for Bender to come back, or waiting for your radiances to come back, that you'll be able to get set up. Okay, this is first ramp. Again, should definitely hit his Shadow Word Death, especially when he's moving. You can actually more easily kind of like glide across these lines and still produce a lot of atonement healing. Sometimes what I do is I kind of like bank up a resource or bank up like a Shadow Word Death or something like that, so I can hit it when I'm going to be moving. But here, okay, so yeah, here he once again has like a single Radiance going out. The single Radiance hits Bender and then only has 5 atonements out. Again, on very niche fights where you could hit a single Radiance, but this is pretty much not one of them. There's like maybe one niche area you could use it, or if you're like healing alone or something like that. When you have the entire raid out here, you always want to make sure you're using both those Radiances together. All right, he's got his Rapture up, and then he's trying to find the gamers. This is where you want to probably delay your Rapture a little bit, because he wasn't really able to capture the output he wanted to. So he Raptures all his teammates on this side, which is good. But because he did it really early, those atonements are like starting to fall off, and then he's hitting Radiances on people that are not yet in. And so he only has like a 10-person atonement as this happens. So he did it a little bit early. So basically by the time that the intermission ends, he has his Bender up kind of again. Or I guess he has his Bender up for the 10 atonements. He gets it back here. And then he should really be like playing around right here, give or take. Got 8 seconds left on his second charge of Radiance. And he's got his Mindbender back in 10. It's like, this would be a nice area to apply some single atonements if he wanted to, if he had the mana for it, if he's getting fed an Innervate, or if he's just been good on mana, great. And that's when you start applying it. Because here it's nice, hey, he farmed back his Bender, but also now he has all his Radiances and his Bender off cooldown, and he's chilling. Okay, he's got his Bender back. He has no atonements out. Here is where I would actually, he has 5 seconds left on his second charge, and he just hit his first charge. Here's where I would just be mashing a whole bunch of it, because the boss is at 75% health. He's got 80% mana. Probably has his health pot, or mana pot, that he could use a second time throughout the fight, and he has Source Magic. You're in pretty decent shape to be able to be aggressive with your mana. What I often try to do is be a little bit more aggressive early, and then kind of taper it off if I'm seeing near the end of the fight that it's going to get a little bit more sus. But here he hits the 1 Radiance, and then kind of hits some like disjointed. So right here, it's like, oh, he has 13 atonements. That's great. But then 5 lomp off, or 2, and then 5 in a second. So by the time that he has his pet out, a lot of those atonements are starting to fall. And so it's not getting as much value as you otherwise could. That's why you always want to make sure you push both of them together. Then you have at least 10 atonements for every single Bender, all that fun stuff. You can also tell that he's not casting lots of smites during this period, because he has almost 30 seconds left on, or over 30 seconds, I think it was, for a cooldown. Or haste helps with this, but you can also like take more time to kind of slide cast through this boss fight. If you're positioned right here, you're perfectly like lined up so that you can just sidestep and then sidestep again, right? But this is also like a frequent mistake. So this happens, he's kind of looking where to go, kind of dodges and dodges, but you should already be expecting, if I'm going into Soak a Flower, how am I getting out? Yeah, this is unfortunate, but this is also why I try to like stand very close to the boss. I have an easier time of like dodging these. And also there's usually a lot of flowers that are stood there close. So here he cops the res, and this is always really tough. Almost dies as well, stepping out of the barrier. But right when this happens, it's good that he's gonna like work to recover. But he also kind of overlaps some of his atonements too, because he was kind of like rushing. And it's okay to like take your time, because with this fight, the boss will reset and start putting out more flowers faster and faster and faster. So if he took a little bit longer and then was able to get more atonements up, it actually would be better. I do like that he's doing mechanics. I do like he's helping out. I think part of it is just like planning, because again, you see right here, he's got his pet back, which is great. He should be single applying atonements, because again, he's at 80% mana and the boss is at 50%. You have lots of mana at your disposal. So he hits one Radiance and then he's moving. And then he hits a Mind Blast and then he's smiting and then penancing. And then he's juking in and out, in and out, in and out all the time. Lots of damage on the party. And he has another Radiance charge and another one coming back in a second. So here he hits it, hits his bender, and then starts doing more damage again. So he's casting lots of single Radiances, then doubles it up after he's already hit the penance that he buffed up with Harsh Discipline. And so that's even more output that kind of gets missed. So that's why I say, like, Mind Bender's a really good setup, especially if, you know, you run into errors or you make a mistake. You can get back on track pretty quickly. You just got to make sure that you're performing well and you're not making some of these mistakes that are very common, you know? It's like now when he like stepped up into that, he didn't really have like a plan on how he was going to get out, right? Because you see the beam that's coming down. You see how it's going to extend. Yeah, you want to make sure you're soaking these flowers, but you also have to be able to stand still long enough to be able to produce some healing. So here, just not producing like any output. And so obviously there's times where you want to make sure you're able to soak the flowers. Sometimes you want to make sure that you're also putting up healing in advance so that you're going to be able to keep your allies alive. So now he's trying to get back into position for this setup, and people are okay, but they're not like full healthy. He gets atonements up, six atonements, so he's not full covering everybody. I think you could also like put all of his put things like Innervade, put things like Spatial Paradox, try to like put all these important buffs to keep an eye on. Try to keep them like close together when you can. It always helps. Always helps me at least. He's got his Raptures up, and again, the Raptures are a little early because he's not yet in range of the other allies. So Rapture falls off right now, and then he's moving and not casting, and then he gets the Radiances. So some of these atonements are missing, basically, because you have 18 people alive, and so you already want to be like back into position on Nimue and keeping in mind who is in the other group consistently, so you can cast Radiances off of them to apply it to them, because Radiance is applying atonements to players within 30 yards. Just straight up within 30 yards. And so you might be in range of the person, but your target is not in range of the person you want to apply atonements to. And then that results in, 3-4 less atonements, but you're doing that enough times, it's a lot of missed output over the course of the fight. See, there was like almost ideally what you want to do. Now slide cast, hit penance as you go, things like that. Try to make sure you're using those mobile abilities to help you. Then he kind of scuffs it. So he gets his atonements up to 12. Right here, plant, cast, get the value out of your atonements that you can. Then he kind of reaches to flash heal somebody that drops low. This is probably the hardest part about playing disc, is you have to like disconnect yourself from the needs of like one person to like make sure you kind of complete your ramp. Now obviously if somebody's about to die, you step in. But by going in for like a flash heal for somebody who wasn't really low HP, he then is doing that at the expense of the rest of his atonements, because only now does he get the atonement up onto whoever he was casting on. Sometimes you just have to like recognize that those people are taking damage and then focus on just completing your part of the ramp, because 4, 5, 6 more smites into the rest of your allies is going to have them in a lot healthier position as you enter into downtime. And that's your responsibility. How do you get out of this situation? Good. And now this one. Yeah. 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 So this is all like planning, right? Because every time that you step into a position on Nimue, you have to think about where you're going next. Like, as the room gets like really, really nasty for me. My boss is like 35%, something like that. For me, I like to have my like camera pan down a little bit here as well, rather than having it top down. It also helps me see the cutter beams that are coming. But I always am like trying to stay at the edge. So you see for like this mini ramp that I do, I have 16 atonements out. And then I'm focusing the targets of my radiances on Frosty and Tiny. Those are both players who I know from progression are going to be near the middle of the room. Or kind of leaning to the left or leaning to the right a little bit, right? And then that allows me to know, hey, I'm going to hit more range targets that are out there soaking. And also be in range of like some low health melee or something. So here, this is a similarly like really far away one that's off to the side. And I'm instantly jumping over, hitting smites in between, applying atonements in between as I'm moving with renew, flash heal procs, all of that. And then I'm kind of just slide casting through all of this. So that way I'll hit my Mind Blast, hit my penance, and I use the penance to bring me to the next location. I'm going to hit my smites, and then I'm in execute range, so I'm going to start hitting my Shadow or Deaths. Then I hit my penance, I dip back in, I complete it, and then I get out. Now that we're going to go into like the next phase, all the lines are going to go away, and I'm already where I need to be. So like how you plan your movement also makes a really big difference for disc, you know? And then like here are some of the fine areas that you can, you know, hit a single radiance because you're not hitting the entire party. That's okay. And then this is also going to be where I'm hitting the rapture as I'm getting like the rest of the group together. So again, I'm trying to like move up to the ad to have like a lot easier of a time maneuvering around it. And like some of the other faraway flowers, we have a couple people at range that can help, but not making it such a massive deal because we're going to be able to hit them up a little bit on the way back and we get in a position. So as I'm running back into position, since the continuum lasts a really long time, this is where I'm setting up my rapture, and this is where I'm setting up my ramp. Now I have my 17-person ramp. Everyone's super unhealthy. We hit the Radiance, we hit the Dark Reprimand, and you can just see how much health pools are pooling up and pushing up. This is... By the time that continuum hits, I've done 79 million healing. And at the beginning of the ramp, I've done about 80 million healing. And then we smite. And I've done about like 10 million healing out of that ramp as a result of like delaying it a little bit more, making sure I apply atonements to everybody, pumping. So now I got my squid back. I'm applying single atonements mostly to range targets. Unless the range and then here I hit Jung with a Radiance because I know he's near the middle with me. And then I hit a Radiance in melee. That way I'm able to guarantee, I'll show you again. That way I'm going to be able to guarantee where the atonements want to go. So Jung was usually with me in like the middle of the room. I think this is him. Or maybe it's him. Find Jung. Yeah, so he was in the middle right here. And then I hit Castrix with a Radiance, and he's in melee. Hit my double Shadow or Death. And I'm smiting as all my atonements are falling off. Sliding out with Dark Reprimand, with Penance, basically. Boss is almost dead, so I just hit another Radiance. And now I'm just trying to stretch the rest of the fight and then get the kill.